if you can place $2-3 million of excess cash with a low risk rate at 3-4%, it's $100,000 of free cash flow every year, just by making some optimization here and there and having a bit more dynamic strategy with your excess cash placement. And if you think about how much additional revenue based on your current margin you need to get the same level of free cash flow, it's much more effort. So this like excess cash placement is really like quick win, something that is massively underused, under leveraged.
Agicap empowers treasury teams to deliver cash management success by offering total cash visibility that has never existed before. The system empowers treasury teams to connect, forecast, and optimize cash flows on one secure platform. Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey. I'm your host for the Treasury Truth or Dare podcast. Honored to have with me today as my guest, Mickael Jordan. He's the Chief Revenue Officer for North America at Agicap. So, Mickael, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Ernie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So, before we jump in, just a little bit about our format here. If you haven't had the opportunity to experience a podcast yet, we will do several rounds of Truth or Dare, where I will ask my guests, would you like to choose a truth or a dare? So he will go through that process. And then after about 4 or 5 rounds, I'll flip the script a little bit, and I will allow my guests to ask me to do a dare. Note, I do not know what the dares are going to be on my side. So let's go ahead and get us started. So to kick things off, would you like to start with a truth or a dare?
Start with the truth.
Okay. So this is kind of a 2-part question. So part A is going to be, I'd like you to give us a little bit of a background on the inspiration for your solution. And then if you could also share, what was it made at the right time for you to really ramp up your efforts in the U.S. and open your office in Austin?
Yeah. So what's the inspiration behind Agicap? So it all started in 2016. So 2 of the 3 co-founders, so Sebastian and Clément, were both working for a financial consulting firm in France. And they worked a lot with banks, but they also worked a lot with small and medium-sized businesses and with business owners specifically. And what they often heard is that cash flow management and forecasting was a key issue and concern and challenge, but that it was poorly served, and there was like no proper software to handle it for these sizes of businesses except Excel. So there was like a strong pain point across all industries on this particular segment of SMB with no proper solution in the market. And at that time, this was also the beginning of the open banking trend and European regulation around open banking. So they both combine, like there is an opportunity on the technological side with banks now allowing to access the data through API. And on the other side, SMBs having this strong need for better cash flow management. So they felt like this was the right opportunity to pursue. So they just both created the job and started working on it. And they brought in a third co-founder, Lucas, on the product development side. And they started building the first version of Agicap by talking to hundreds of business owners and really making sure that they designed the product that business owners and financial leaders had in mind from scratch. That was back in 2016. I joined in 2019. Just before COVID, when Agicap was still a small organization with less than 10 people. And we had a fantastic ride from 2015 to 2025, expanding all over Europe. We are now over 600 people with offices in France, Germany, Italy, UK, Spain. And like you said, now also in the US, in Austin, Texas. And so, yeah, regarding your second question, what's the reasoning behind the timing to launch the US now? Why not earlier? Why not later? And why here in Austin? So first, we decided to really focus on continental Europe first because the market is already so big. There was also a need to have a solid transition to mid-market first, and also to further localize the product for some of our key geographies like Germany and Italy, some specific development. We had US on the radar, of course, for a while, but we didn't want to rush the move until we felt that we had solid foundation, a solid organization, good track record in all our key geographies before making this move. Because we knew that once we launch in the US, if things go according to plan, this would quickly be a massive geography for us. Because the US is not a new country, it's like a new region, right? Because the total addressable market in the US for us is bigger than all of Europe, right? And so, yeah, we really took our time to get ready, and we closed a last round of funding also like in October 2024 of 40 million euros. So it also gave us like the room to go in the US aggressively with the proper financial resources. And so what we did is we launched an exploration phase. Sometimes a lot of one of the key mistakes that European startups tend to do when they launch in the US, and they will go straight away with no proper market validation. So what we did is at the beginning of 2024, we launched an exploration phase on the US market from Europe. So we had a dedicated team with German people and British people working from Europe on the US market. So we started closing our first US customers, and we started serving them from Europe. So it allowed us to learn a lot and to validate the product market fit until we felt ready that it was the right time to launch and accelerate and open a local office here in Austin, Texas.
Thank you very much for all of the insight and background. So let's go ahead and go to our second round here. Would you like to go with another truth? Or are you ready to go for a dare?
Well, let's try it there, see what it looks like.
All right. Can you please share with us a mistake you may have made in managing people across different generations and what you've learned from it?
Yeah, that's a good one. So in my previous startup, I managed people that were slightly older than me because I was like 20, 25, 26 at this time. And now at Agicap, I'm the more senior person in the team because I'm 39, and most of our employees are between 25 and 30. So maybe I think the most relevant is to focus on the second part, like how to generate to manage the younger generation, or the Gen Z as we call it, right? And so here, so it's not really like a mistake, but it's more like a best practice on what we see working with this generation, right? Because we hire a lot of fresh graduates, people who have like 2 or 3 years of experience and like join Agicap in sales roles or in customer success roles or variety of roles. And we see with this generation that they really want to get a good understanding of the mission and the purpose of that job, right? So it cannot just be like, these are your tasks, just execute this task, you get the money, and you'll get your variable. They have a strong need of purpose and understanding the big picture and understanding and feeling part of a mission, right? So it might sound a bit like caricatural, but this is really what it is. They need to see the impact of their day-to-day job,
Right.
to be happy and to feel accomplished in their job.
Yeah.
So what it means and what we do concretely to fulfill that is we give them first a 360 picture, right? So everyone in the team and all these young people, they attend our town halls and monthly performance reviews with top management, where we are very transparent about what's going on at Agicap, what works, what does not. We share some success stories and so on. So they really have access to all of this information. They know as much as all the C-level management and our board members, more or less. So they're really part of the story, and they have the strategic insights, and this is something that's very important for these generations. And we also give them the tool to have access to even more granular information, like if you're a young sales business developer, now we're not going to put you in a silo where you only need what's going on with what you manage. I mean, we encourage you to work closely with the more senior account executive and the customer success people, so you know and you have access to the information about what's going on with all the people that you prospected and that became customers, and how they are doing now, so forth, so on. So it's really this level of transparency. And they also need to feel that we value their feedback and that we give them an opportunity, even at a very young age, to have a lot of impact, right? To empower them. We trust you, and if you do well, you can have disproportionate impact and fast promotion and move on very quickly in your career.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Love that advice. That's great advice for any treasury leader, any leader at any organization. Help people understand why they matter, how they fit, really empower them to collaborate across the enterprise, and don't keep them from company information so they understand your strategy. And you also mentioned silos, which is a big pet peeve of mine. So having a culture of no silos is incredibly important. So from that, I think I would like to work for you because I haven't experienced that, and a lot of us have not. So keep on doing that for us, please. All right, let's go ahead and go to our next round. Would you like to go back to a truth, or would you like to go for another dare?
Well, let's go for truth now. Back to
Okay, so
truth.
this follows up a little bit about your last question. So you said you've engaged some younger folks. So this is a question that's near and dear to my heart. So what can we do to increase the awareness of the treasury profession in these young professionals? And kind of alongside that, did any of these people understand what treasury was, or did you have to really teach them what treasury was all about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So no, we definitely had to to teach them for most of the time. I mean, a lot of them already had, like, of course, a high level idea of what cash flow
Right.
management and treasury management is and means, but just very like basic concept. But even just explaining the difference between accounting and like treasury and cash flow, even it would be surprised, like even more senior people don't
Absolute right.
really get it. So these are things that you definitely need to explain, and not only what it is, but why it matters and why it's so important to the business. So I think like there are two different ways to answer your question. I mean, what we do internally with all our newcomers when they join Agicap, everyone starts, like, there is a internal training program, and of course part of the training is basic like finance and treasury masterclass. So we get them through all the key finance and treasury concepts with some quizzes and with some business cases, so they can really see concretely, operationally speaking, what treasury is and why it's so important for our type of customers, meaning not only for like Fortune 500 people, but for the companies we work with. So small and medium-sized businesses, mid-market companies. Why is it so important? And give them like concrete example, not just theory, but stories, success stories of how it works, why it matters, and the impact it has on an operational level, on a financial level, in terms of concrete ROI and impact on the bottom line, but also the strategic importance of the job, right? So a lot of things that we do with our team, but also with our market, is to educate on cash culture and how strategic treasury management is for any businesses, so that the treasury management job is not considered as a technical back office job, and really understands that it's first and foremost a strategic position with a huge impact on the financial performance and on the viability of the companies. And so these are things that we also do with like influencers like you, Ernie, but also with other people and thought leadership, to do these webinars, to create these success stories and video content showcasing treasury professionals and consultants and specialists that will share this knowledge on what treasury management is, why it's so important, and why it's also fun, right? And why it's like it's a great job to consider, and not just being like potentially a consultant or financial controller. Treasury management is very important, it's very fun, and this is definitely a role to consider as you start your career in finance.
Yeah, love that. So my goal, I'm getting a little older, but before I is to get what you just said and get that in front of the high school students, the younger students, the university students, so it's not such a high lift, right? Treasury has a brand, and I'm trying to work on that brand. So people should be excited about treasury in the MBA programs and the finance programs. it's incredibly important. So that brand's important. So I'd love to see where new professionals coming in already have that desire and understand that treasury is fun and important. So that's my goal. So someday when you continue to grow in the US, you'll just like have a new person and say, you get it. So that's one of my goals. All right, let's go for the next round. One more round, then I'll let you ask me a dare. Would you like to go back to a dare or another truth?
Yeah, and let's go back to there.
Okay. Uh, why don't you share with us one of your hidden talents?
Something that's not obvious. Well,
Yes.
I'm pretty good at drawing,
Oh, okay.
I
Wow.
guess. Like I draw a lot of cartoons for my kids, so it's now because I have two young kids, 8 and 5 year olds. So and I kind of stopped drawing for a few years, and when I after I had my kids, they started asking me like, "Hey, Dad, draw me this, draw me that," like a princess, Japanese animation stuff, etc. So I got back into it, and I drew a lot more these days, and it's a lot of orders placed by my kids, but I also I really enjoy it, and it's a way also to get them involved in the process and teach them how to do it, and have a bit of an artistic flavor to life. So that is quite cool.
Thanks for sharing that with me. I think that's we often talk on the podcast about how people maintain their work-life balance and do something which they really enjoy and get their mind off of
Right.
all the issues that we have. So thank you for being willing to share with us. So since you just done a few dares, I'm gonna flip the tables and I'm gonna let you ask me a dare. So go ahead and ask me a dare.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, curious to hear what's been your experience because we are very international companies and like international managing people from different geographies is always a challenge. So curious to get your take, like what mistakes or best practices you've seen in managing people across and working with people across different countries and regions.
Yeah, that's great. So I can share some mistakes and my best practices that I've learned from them. So I mean, I think it's just the way we are in America. We think that everyone thinks the same way that we do. We have the same culture. So the way that we communicate with folks has to be different. So I've learned that I have to make an effort in understanding the culture of where someone is located. So I want to convey to them that I'm interested in your culture, your specific job. So I found something that has worked is if I can travel overseas and sit next to the person and understand their job and just watch them. And also, I would say having face to face conversations in person is incredibly important as well. So, like along those lines, just saying finding a personal connection. So, I used to be business first always. So, build that connection, understand that, but also, as you do with your teams, help them understand their value, how they fit, what we're doing, why we're doing it. I've had acquisitions where I haven't done that, and it just creates friction and it's hard enough. But when you're going across borders and then also just listening. So I like to talk about, we used to talk about centralization. Like we used to enforce things on corporate from other countries. We try and treasury practices. But what I come to realize is that the practices in treasury were really much more advanced and actually superior for my folks overseas. So it was
Right.
like, how do I harmonize best practices? How do I learn from others and take what they're doing? And that way they feel like their voice is being heard. So, all
Really?
right, thank you for that. Let's get back to you. Would you like to go for a truth or a dare?
Let's go for truth again.
Okay. So, I really like this question. Okay, so, given your experience and all the interactions you've had with your team and treasury professionals across the world, in which areas do you think Treasury do you feel needs more attention, where we might wanna focus a bit more, where our profession would do well to focus more?
Interesting one. I think there is a use case that we really try to crack those days and generate awareness about its excess cash flow placement. The reason for this is like when we talk to prospects and start to get them into the topic of where you're at with treasury management, cash flow forecasting, cash flow management, they're like, oh, we don't have a cash flow issue. And saying, yeah, so what do you mean I do not have cash flow issue? Oh, we have a lot of cash. Say, great. And how much do you place and invest this excess cash? And this is when things get interesting, because a lot of time those businesses will like be very proud, and like even treasury professionals be very proud to sit on piles of cash, but they don't really get the best from it. They don't really put it at work as much as they could. And the reason for this, most of the time, it's because of a lack of good forecasting, right?
Right.
Because they don't have enough visibility in their cash forecast for the coming days, weeks, and months. So they keep this big safety cushion of cash. Like even for small, medium-sized businesses. I mean, sometimes we talk to companies that make 20, 30 million of annual revenue, and that are sitting on like 10 million of cash that is just sitting there on checking accounts, where it could be put to work in a much more dynamic way. And it's a huge missed opportunity. And and so here the trick is that when you have a good forecasting in place and you really trust your forecast, you can have a much more dynamic investment strategy with short-term, mid-term placements in money market accounts and bonds and different types of investments that don't have to be high risk, and that can be across different horizon, but just making sure that you can reduce the cushion of cash that you have to keep on your checking account and put more treasury at work, because the interest rates remain high these days. Even if they decreased a bit, they are still high, like 3-4%. So you can have like easy and quick financial gains just by placing your excess cash more intensively for on short-term and mid-term horizon. And if you think about it, like if you can place $2-3 million of excess cash with a low risk rate at 3-4%, it's $100,000 of free cash flow every year, just by making some optimization here and there and having a bit more dynamic strategy with your excess cash placement. And if you think about how much additional revenue based on your current margin you need to get same level of free cash flow, it's much more effort. So this like excess cash placement is really like a quick win, something that is massively underused, under leveraged. And so we do also a lot of education about it to understand the level of excess cash that is available across all of these businesses, and also educate them on how to get better use of it. So we've developed masterclass with some consultants that are specialists of this topic of excess cash placement, specifically for this type of companies that they don't want to make it too complex, right? They want to keep it simple but more dynamic, and making sure they can get a good ROI from those investments.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple things to dovetail on. I just did a survey, results coming. It's amazing to me how many companies, the majority of companies report that they have over 20% of their liquidity in trapped cash. And there's a big percentage of companies that have money sitting in non-interest bearing bank accounts. So it just dovetails on exactly what you said. So to me, it's like visibility is key. Visibility is first, and then you can start to see those opportunities. And then I think another thing you mentioned is people don't understand the consequences of their inaccurate cash forecasting. Just look at it. What did you do wrong? Did you borrow? Did you make an FX transaction you didn't want to?
Right.
What would you have done if you had this? So just like you said, I think a lot of it's just a look in the mirror, cash optimization, right? There's so much there to be better on, right? You just don't, you think I'm doing a good job. Well, you got to have a different perspective on what good means. And then, like you said, these are bottom line impacts. Treasury, wouldn't you love to go to the CFO and say, "Hey, I just put an extra $300,000 on the bottom line with no cost." That's huge.
Yeah, because people tend to focus a lot on mitigating the risk of cash shortage and all these things, but think about it, and it's cyclical. I mean, there are times where you're going to be tight on cash, and there are times where you're going to have some excess cash. So identify these cycles, and when you know based on your business model that there are times when you do have excess cash, make sure that you have a strategy in place to put this excess treasury to work, even if it's just for 1, 2, 3 months, and then you get the cash back. But this can have a massive impact if it's done well, and it's not that complicated.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So let me go ahead and ask you to share with us a couple final thoughts. So if you're in the room with 1,000 treasury professionals, maybe one or two things that you would really like to communicate to them.
Like we said, like I think cash is king. Everyone knows this. But I think like the main point to make cash actually king is really to take the ownership on spreading the cash culture across your organization, right? And this is also like the responsibility of treasury professionals, cash flow professionals to educate their organization on the importance of treasury, the impact of treasury, the success stories that we mentioned. Because otherwise, if you expect that your top management and your CEO will do it, they won't. I mean, sometimes they will, but it's your job to educate your organization and to build this cash culture and convince your top management that every team should have like a KPI related to cash performance, right? And this is also things that we work on to really have like a methodology to create this cash action plan, right? And integrate these cash KPIs and the importance of cash performance in every department of the organization, and making sure that the treasury professional can take this ownership, because this is how you're going to maximize at the end of the day the impact of your job, is if it's kind of everyone's responsibility to make sure the company has good cash performance and treasury performance.
Right. Love it. We need to be owning and creating the culture of cash, and we need to be communicating the value of treasury up and across the organization so we can get that strategic seat at the table. So, Mikael, thank you very so much for taking the time with us today. I want to let everyone know that a few things coming along the line with myself and my partners at Agicap. We are going to be having them as a sponsor on our Cash Management Tech virtual forum. And I'm honored to be going to an event of theirs in Austin in person. So we'll get to communicate in person. And I know they'll have a big presence at the AFP conference in Boston. So please go ahead and engage with them when you can. They have amazing thought leadership on their website. So I encourage you to visit that as well. You can tell they have a commitment to those who use their products in the treasury profession, in addition to just treating folks as clients. So that comes across crystal clear. So to all of my listeners out there, I want you to have the courage to live your treasury truths every day and dare to be great in everything that you do within and beyond treasury. Until next time, everyone. Thanks for watching the show. I hope you guys liked it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned and hit the subscribe button for more.